In the midst of nationwide protests over the death of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department, reporters covering those events have become targets of harassment and arrest. That's something that, in this former reporter's opinion, should deeply concern every American. Those incidents are a clear violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. Those behind the arrests and the assaults on reporters must be held accountable. These incidents have not been isolated. A Minnesota State Patrol officer arrested a CNN reporter and his crew during a live broadcast, despite the media people repeatedly offering to comply with the police and asking where they could safely move. An LA Times reporter and photographer were chased by Minnesota State Patrol officers, tear gassed, and shot at with rubber bullets, even though both of them were wearing their press credentials and identified themselves as journalists. And police officers pepper sprayed a group of visibly credentialed journalists as they were pinned against a wall. Nationwide, U.S. Press Freedom Tracker has logged more than 230 incidents targeting journalists since Floyd's death. Law enforcement attacks on reporters exercising their right and their duty to keep the public informed strike at the core of American democracy. And it's not enough for the police to say they let those people go once they realized who they were, because all of those targeted could clearly have been identified as reporters at the time of the confrontations. It is obvious there are some cops very poorly trained regarding the rights of reporters to be at these events. Those who made the attacks must be held accountable, and departments need to re-emphasize to officers out there on the front lines that reporters must be allowed to do their jobs unhindered. Likewise, the journalists need to watch out for themselves. They need to avoid such things as getting between the protesters and the police or acting in any way to inflame the situation. Despite the rhetoric from the highest levels in the land trying to convince you otherwise, the media is not your enemy. What they are reporting sometimes will run counter to your preconceived notions, but assuming those reporters have correctly done their job, as is overwhelmingly the case, they are simply presenting you with the facts. Your job, at that point, is to ask yourself, what if I'm wrong?